Welcome to The Village Lantern, a podcast for families living with hidden challenges such as autism and other neurodiverse conditions, and for anyone else wanting to understand, love and support. Our mission is to build understanding, empathy and love for families living with one or more children who have hidden conditions that make life harder in one way or another. We call this extra zing.
Every single one of us and our children display completely different behaviours and have completely different lives and different challenges.
You know, you want to help them all because it can be a hard life. Navigating this, especially quite lonely life, trying to work out what your children need, which is, you know, the world isn't designed for our kids, and we're helping them navigate that.
Hey everyone, hope you're going well. Super excited about this ep. I hope some of you might have heard the little intro that I did separately to explain the addition that we're making to the podcast, bringing on some new co-hosts. And this is the first conversation with our new co-hosts, being Bel and Char. I'm so excited to share this with you. In this conversation, we really give a chance for you listeners to get to know Char and Bel a little bit, just for us to talk about why we've made this addition and what it is that we're hoping to achieve. We talk about the topics that we want to cover. There's a little bit of fruity language that you might either choose not to listen to or you might not want to listen with kids around. But there's lots of laughing and there's lots of love and lots of gorgeous stories, and I hope you love it. Let me know. Bye. Don't think I could be happier to be sitting in this room with these two wonderful humans. I've got with me Bel and Char, and they're both mums of neurodivergent kids, and they're both good friends of mine. I'd just love both of you to just give a quick sort of summary of your family setups and how you fall into the hidden challenges / hidden disability family community. Bel?
Sure. I have three amazing children, 14, 12 and 10. All three of them have ADHD and the eldest has autism. And probably the current challenge has been, which Anna's been helping me with, is I really didn't know much about ADHD. So having a 10-year-old with very much textbook combination ADHD has been just as challenging as autism, as parenting through that. That is a new thing. And I'm every day presented with new sets of challenges and new wonderful things that I'm discovering. And
Sure.
We just moved here from the UK probably only 8-9 months ago, bringing my 9-year-old autistic son and 4-year-old maybe neuro
TBD
to be decided 4-year-old daughter. We don't know what amazing brain is going on there.
Just a reminder, I don't think I've done this for a while in my previous interviews, but I also have 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 10-year-old, same as Bel. And I have also all kids with ADHD plus me. Cha-ching.
oh yeah, you win.
You get the prize.
And then, no, I don't want it.
You got a full set.
I don't want the prize. And then one of my middle child, Millie, is also autistic. And I mean, we've come together. Yeah. We're so fortunate that we've got this shared experience. I think that's so nice. Like, I think we all separately over time have been contacted by other people who are going through what we're going through. But sometimes if someone contacts me and they've got a 6-year-old or whatever, I can share less about that. I mean, partly because I have no memory, but also because it's just not, it changes so much.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so, it's so nice to be able to be going through similar experiences. It's probably worth explaining a little bit how we all came together as the three of us. I've known Bel, help me out, 25.
What are we? 25
Pretty
years,
old.
I'd say. Yeah.
I reckon even maybe more. We met when we were like 19, I think.
Yeah,
well,
uni.
And then we lived together. We were like housemates.
The mouldy house.
So mouldy.
Sorry.
And then we've just been in a sort of broader social circle since then. And then, of course...
Pregnant at the same time?
Pregnant, yeah, a couple of times. Similar.
All 3 times?
All 3 times. All the times. And, of course, the beauty of a lifelong friend who then has a shared current experience is so nice because you don't get it, right? Very much, do you, where you're actually living the same life after so long. So that's Bel. And Char is a newer friend, met via Char's husband, Sunny, who I've known probably for as long as Bel, almost. Maybe not quite as long, but almost. But Char comes from the UK.
Yep.
And recently moved back here with your family.
Yep.
And same sort of thing. I think there's an immediate connection when you very quickly share, no way, me too. Oh my gosh, me too, about so many things that are so painful.
Well, it's so funny because you've been trying to get me on to do a recording for a while, and I thought I had to move to the other side of the world and then move to the street next to yours before I could even have the time or headspace to do it.
Well, I felt like it was my tendency to have all these ideas and then rope people in and then never get around to it.
Yeah.
So we were gonna do one remotely.
We were, but obviously that never worked out because lockdowns, life,
yeah, but
hell,
I mean,
stress.
surely we should have been able to do it in lockdown.
I couldn't do anything.
Maybe could I?
No.
I'm still getting used to it.
Would have had to hide in a cupboard. You know, everyone was doing those podcasts from the...
Under their duvets.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, doonas. Now I'm in Australia.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, would have had to do that, which probably we were doing that anyway. But
hiding under our donuts from our children.
But just without the recording equipment.
But you don't realise that I've probably just followed you around because you're like my kind of guru, neurodivergent mum. Yeah, I'm literally so what do I do now? Now what do I need? And what have I got? How do I get that?
I know.
And you've been amazing. I remember calling you when we decided to move here, and we didn't call anyone, we just called you. And we were like, okay, so we're moving and we've got this son and he's and what do we do? And you're like, you got on the phone and you were like, it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to help you. This is what you need to do. You sent me an email. You did this whole thing and I just burst into tears. And you were like, you're so helpful. Because I had this fear, I'm moving to the other side of the world. That's scary enough. But I've also got, an autistic son. Don't know what the hell I'm doing.
So I was going to add to that story is that Char, I don't know if you know, Anna does that for so many people. It's unbelievable. I refer to it as Anna collects friends, but
she's a collector.
She's a collector, and you're so generous with people. And I feel like when I've had that same experience, particularly lately with my 10-year-old, I'm like, oh, what about this? And what's happening with this? And who should I see about this? You're so amazing like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so nice to hear. I forget everything I do. So sometimes when people say to me, oh, I remember when you something, and I say, did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you're amazing. I remember you said to me recently that you feel like you need to help everyone because it is hard. It's a struggle. There's a lot to get through, but you said some people aren't as fortunate as you with, even financially or whatever. And, you want to help them all because it can be a hard life, navigating this, especially quite lonely life, trying to work out what your children need, which is, the world isn't designed for our kids. Yeah. And we're helping them navigate it.
Yeah. I mean, look, anything that we or I can do to help is absolutely, I just feel like it's actually been my clarity of my purpose actually in my life because for a long time I wasn't really sure. I think I hadn't gotten to know myself properly. I hadn't been able to separate my extrinsic drivers to really be able to work out what I really love and what I really want to do. And so I often say my purpose was thrust upon me. But I mean,
thrust
for me,
out of you.
Yeah, thrust out and then back onto me. But
I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not like you had a choice because people often say to me, oh, I don't know how you do what you do. And you're so, you're so brave or something like this. Yeah. And you're like, what? No, this is, what do you do if you have children who need you, who need you to step up and be, find the best things for them, find the best therapies. I mean, I was thinking about the other day, like some kids are born and you just trundle along behind them, kind of steering them a little bit. And then there's other kids that you need to wrangle. You need you need experts, you need to throw money at the problem, you need to, I mean, I'm not saying they're a problem, I'm saying like they have things that need to be solved. And to get them from A to B, which is basically getting them through life with their mental health intact and their potential fulfilled, we need to be steering them a lot harder because they're adrift often.
You know, there's a podcast I've been following called The Imperfects. Have you guys heard? They're great. They're I mean, it's a little bit like us. They're three men who are sitting around with a shared sort of desire to convey an idea, and theirs is about encouraging men and everyone to embrace their vulnerability. But just the other day, one of the guys, and unfortunately I don't know the podcast well enough to be able to distinguish each of their voices yet. Two of them are brothers and they sound quite similar. But one of them was talking about how he and his family had some challenges with one of their kids, and I don't know if it was a psychologist or doctor or someone who described very much what you just described about some kids are dandelions. Like most kids are dandelions, like they'll grow anywhere.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you don't have to tend to them, and they just grow, and then they exist, and then they, and then others are orchids.
Oh, that's,
that require a certain temperature.
It's so true.
Just the right amount, not too much.
You always think you're going to kill them.
So easy. And you worry about them, and you're always trying and researching new ways for them to flourish. I thought, that's so good.
Yeah. In fact, I saved a post from Kirsty Forbes, and she posted a really nice thing, which she said, when a flower, well, it wasn't her who said it was Alexander Dan Hazer, but they said, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably what we're talking about, why the hardship comes from trying to fix the environment. So getting all the people, you need to get the people around them to move heaven and earth to make that environment better for them.
And how lucky are we, though? Like, we're three educated white women that can do this.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about that. Like, I still struggle. I still find it challenging to navigate that and work out, who do I need to see? How much support do they need? How can I advocate? What happens if you can't?
I know, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think that's what you were talking about, Anna, with that. You want to help everyone, because some people, you have to go into a meeting and advocate for your child so strongly that you're basically telling experts what to do because you know more than them.
Yeah.
And getting them to go, okay, here's thousands of dollars for your child.
Yeah, and you have to have a pretty deep level of confidence to be able to do that.
Balls of steel, vaginas of steel. Sorry. There must be better. Ovaries of something.
Oh, let's workshop that one.
I was going to edit this bit out, but I was going to say flaps or something.
Oh, brilliant.
Vulvas came to mind for me.
Vulvas of
firm flaps.
We may not edit that out. No. I mean, that's just the other thing. So I think that what you've just said, Char, is actually why we're here. Like, it's actually what we want to continue to kind of do. And I think individually we've each been doing this to the extent that we can in our own lives and with our own communities around trying to build awareness, because that point about the environment, in order to shift the environment, it actually requires us to shift hearts and minds of other people. And it's easy for us. We're not talking about people like us because we're all living that life. We're talking about people who don't live this life, who don't understand, why would they? I never did. I knew nothing. I didn't even know what autism was. I mean, apart from something very random. When my daughter was diagnosed, I knew about ADHD probably because deep down I knew that was me. But even then I didn't really know that much. So why would anyone know if they don't have to? Everyone's busy.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've talked about this a lot with you guys separately and then in some of the previous interviews we've done, that it's hard enough in our life without the minute we step outside. So it's super hard inside, right? From dawn to dusk, it's hard. And then we step outside, we just finally get a bit of fresh air. We're going somewhere, we've finally got out of the house. And then our child does something that's unexpected or, quite frankly, antisocial. And then we have to deal with the wrath of the people around us. And that's just like the last straw.
Yeah.
It's just like, I actually don't know that I can take anymore.
And for me, that's the process that we've been through and where we're at the moment. For me, that's the grieving point right now. I've got no grieving at all for my neurodiverse children. I think they're brilliant and amazing and they're teaching me so much. But what I'm kind of grieving about is that lack of understanding or acceptance. I don't know if grief's the right word, but because people don't understand and there is judgment and there isn't kindness and there is not really the concept that antisocial behaviour, that's not them being assholes. That's not them deliberately wanting to hurt your kid or say mean things or whatever. They are struggling. They're either overstimulated or they're having a meltdown because of something or they're, whatever's going on. But I suppose that's how would people know?
What's really sad about that is the fact that our kids have to learn to change, to fit into the world, when really the emphasis should be on the world changing for them, to help them fit in, And I think that's, you send them to OTs and speech and language and we're, saying, well, in this situation, this is how you react and this is what you should do. And you're like, well, shouldn't the emphasis be on the non-disabled person to change? Shouldn't it be like you open the door for the person in the wheelchair? Why should the person in the fucking wheelchair have to struggle through that door? So then you go, well, this is what it's like for our kids. They go out and they step into the world. And I think the thing that scares me the most and gives me this time pressure is that horrific stat, which is only 22% of autistic adults are in full-time employment.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, there's something majorly wrong here because what the hell? Think how many autistic people there are in the world. Think how many things they offer the world. And yet they're just, what do you do? How are they going to support themselves? How are they going to find a purpose? If no one's giving them these chances, well, we've got a shitload of work to do.
And we all know that employment, like consistent, secure employment is like the cornerstone of being able to live sort of satisfying enough life.
To have, mental health, everything.
A purpose.
Independence.
Purpose, belonging, colleagues, everything, and
but
a
it
goal.
starts with school. Like this is what, I kind of wanted to talk about and what we always talk about is how can we actually, schools need to be more inclusive of our children. What are the things that they can do? Like it's really clear to me now the things that schools do really well, now that I've seen quite a few schools like you have, Anne, with your kids. Like, when schools and teachers do it well and they make those accommodations or considerations for your child, it's like your child succeeds. Yeah. And so the workplaces need to do the same thing.
Yeah. I feel like with schools, I have to really hold back from being so cross about our education system. And I know that there's lots of amazing people that work there and they're doing lots of amazing things, but this is like a generation upon generation issue that has not been addressed. And we've got to get the stats. I think I've got some, but I don't know how updated they are about how many families in Australia have children who would fall under that banner of neurodiversity. But I'm guessing it's like at least 15%, right, in total, which is, it's not it's a minority kind of maybe, but it's not insignificant. And how we don't have systems built in, like in the US, every school has a special stream. Every school has to take every kid and they have to make accommodations and it's built into the structure. They've got separate classrooms for certain things. They come back together for other things. It's not like there's not a model out there. Who did I talk about? Oh, in one of my recent interviews with Kate Shearlaw, the amazing AFLW player and runs the Saints Play program, she was talking about how when she was young, there was no opportunity to participate in women's football and she's really only got the chance to do it in the last few years of her professional career. And I said, that's awesome, but isn't there also a bit of sadness about what you missed because that society just wasn't up to that yet? And I feel like that with education. Like I believe that eventually it will be better, but it's going to be too late for my kids. And that's just sad for me. And so that's also the other thing about feeling a very strong drive to do something because we know and we understand and we have, especially like there's plenty of people like us out there who can advocate. If we don't push it, it won't change. So I feel like it's sort of a bit of a responsibility, to the future families. There's so many. The number of kids I see now, families and so many people struggling. I think that's what makes me really sad. So, look, I reckon it's worth, why don't we just kind of talk through a little bit what topics we think we want to cover? Because I think for each of these topics, there's like plenty in each. Let's just like throw it out there. What are the kind of things that you really want to do together, explore together?
I want to talk about really kind of practical, like we can talk about the bigger picture education, what needs to change, but I think there are things, small things that teachers and parents can do.
Yeah, because practical is good.
Yeah, practical is good. And also I think a lot about this, but like it starts with the parents. So if you don't have any neurodiverse children, the language that you use to describe the neurodiverse kids in the class that have meltdowns or that might be violent or that might be whatever, that really makes a difference. And so I've been thinking a lot about how to educate and sort of support neurotypical parents to be more accepting of the neurodiverse kids when they do act out and their child maybe has to manage that as well because, you know, you can start using language like bullying and violent and things like that and that's actually not helpful.
Aggressive,
Well, it's interesting because when my 9-year-old was 7, we needed to tell him he was autistic and we did kind of what 2 advertising creatives do, and we created a PowerPoint presentation and sold it to him like he was a client and this was a really good idea that he needed to know about. And we made this presentation for him and he sat through it and it's all about his strengths and also, you know, things that he finds difficult because you're autistic. But actually after we showed him and he was kind of down with it and he's like, cool, sounds interesting. Where did I catch this autism?
How much is this going to cost?
Yeah, basically. What's the media? We actually sent the presentation to all the parents in his class.
Oh, so good.
And they were like, oh my God, because loads of them had never had any experience of autistic people at all. And then I just said, look, if any of your kids come home and say, well, he was a bit stressed or we don't know what's wrong with him, and, you know, they were like, we've got all the answers now. We've got a whole presentation which basically says this is a bit tricky and this is why and this is how you support him. And they were really appreciative because they're like, oh, and I can use it because actually I've got a nephew who's autistic and I never knew that I could say that. And I think, you know, it's really weird because who wants to be able to have to send a prepresentation to their
I love that you did that.
You know, but actually it was kind of a good age because this is the age when kids are not they start to become less accepting of different. Because I think there is a fine line. When they're young, kids are amazing. They just literally accept anything, don't they? And it's beautiful. And I wish we were all like that forever and ever. But there's an age around 7 when they go, oh, they talk a bit different, or why do they do that and I do this, and who's a boy and who's a girl, and all that.
And they mature at such different rates.
And all that. And it all becomes, the divides start happening. Little friendship groups, who's in the cool group, who's a bit sporty.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and you're like, oh my God.
Identity stuff becomes really... Yeah, I think definitely if we, you know, in terms of what we want to achieve with this, it is about building awareness. Yeah. It's about creating, you know, a safe place to tell the stories that we know so many other people live with that possibly haven't even really spoken to anyone else or haven't really heard anyone be as kind of brutally honest about this life.
Oh, the amount of people that contact me literally going, my God, this is me, this is my life, and they have no one to talk to about it.
So alone.
And yet, you know, often I like pass on a tidbit of, you know, an article or a therapy or this or that, or I'll get people contacting me going, oh, I've heard your 9-year-old's really into this special interest, which is so niche that you can't get it anywhere. And they find me stuff, you know, I'm sending me stuff, and like, amazing.
All those
and that's from
things,
talking.
Yeah, all those tiny things where someone's shown empathy or compassion or understanding or interest.
Yes.
Like, they make the biggest difference when you're raising neurodiverse children and every day is a bit of a slog.
Yeah. And I think that will lead into siblings and, you know, neurotypical, and I say neuro, what's it we were saying?
You say dominant.
Neurodominant neurotype.
Yeah.
When you've got, you know, basically those siblings have grown up speaking autistic.
Yes.
This is how I say it.
Yeah.
And so they get it, they know, I mean, in a way, they can use it to their advantage. Like my 4-year-old will, it's like having the nuclear button that will create war.
Yeah.
You know, they know what turns that person on and off.
Yeah.
But when it works, you go, well, God, if everyone could have that front row seat to neurodiversity, then what an amazing world we'll live in. You know, those kids are going to grow up with this amazing ability to just speak autistic.
Yeah. Well, I love the way you say that, but that's why I feel also Millie's been at a special school and that's been the right thing for us. But I do feel more and more marginalised because, the more that she is not factored in, included, the less that other people understand her. So
that's hidden away is the worst.
Yeah, it does feel like. So education, huge. Siblings, huge. I think mental health, massive for mums, for dads, and different for not necessarily gender, but different for the mum, different for the dad. And marriage, family. I think that Bel, what you were saying about the grief around sort of not really feeling like you can continue to participate socially in the way that you used to, that you expected to, that you want to, you just can't. And that's a huge one. I think we could talk a whole lot about that, how hard it is to be around families who don't understand and your friends, lifelong friends who just don't understand. It's very sad. What else do we talk about? We don't have to list it all now, but I guess what we're trying to do is give a sense of what we want to, where we want to explore.
I think there's this other thing, which is consent, and we've been talking about this a bit, which is we do talk about our kids. We feel it's important not to bury these stories because it's, there's huge stories about families and parenthood that aren't being told, and we need to tell them. But how do we protect our children because they haven't asked us to get on a podcast and chat about them? So it's a real fine balance, and I'm really struggling with this at the moment because obviously I feel like my 9-year-old's a bit too young to be fully aware of, consent.
Giving consent,
and if, things change, whatever. Everything I do is with love in mind. So it's always about pushing on the world to make it a better place for him. But I think that's a big one because I think it's silenced me more often lately. I'm not saying as much on social media. I'm trying to write a book and I'm finding it difficult to imagine how I'm going to tell the stories I want to tell if he is not happy with me talking about it. So I think there's that.
That's a big...
And that's a difficult age, I think, as we mentioned earlier, because Anna and I have got older kids and then kids also that same kind of 9, 10 age, and I think they don't know what is to come.
Yes.
So them being open about it, nor do we.
Yeah.
But I know like my 14-year-old, I said, what do you want me to not talk about or talk about with Anna on the podcast? And they were pretty open about, oh, look, I'm okay with it. I would like to hear it beforehand if you do talk about me. But one thing the message I'd like you to tell people is when they find out that their child is autistic, don't be disappointed.
Oh.
I don't want this message, if you're coming to speak to Anna, I don't want the message to be that that's a disappointment. It's what we need is understanding and people to kind of empathise and learn what works for us and how to be successful, but it's not a disappointment.
I love that because now what that makes me think of a huge one for me in terms of a topic is how much I've changed and how happy I am with how I've changed as a human because of this life. And I don't wish that away at all. I think there's a whole lot to be grateful for without glossing over it, without being Pollyanna. There's so much about deeper understanding of humans and deeper understanding and empathy and open-mindedness.
And also I think it's that the extremes. So our highs are super high and our lows are super low. And I say there's not really much in the middle.
No.
So we don't have this kind of mundanity ever. But so it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But talking about when I get people messaging me saying, my son or daughter or nephew or niece has just been diagnosed as autistic, often I want to say congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
And actually I've had a few people ordering woodies and prints as a celebration for their child and to put it up on their wall as a kind of marking the moment. And a lot of people do cakes and they say, congratulations, you're autistic, and they have a party and the kid feels really like this is a special thing.
Wow.
And it's tricky, isn't it? Because we know there's kids who are autistic who are really struggling to the point where, they're nonverbal, they can't toilet themselves, they can't leave the house, they can't, and so it's really difficult when I talk about autism in a kind of too positive way because there are families out there really struggling to the point of like it's a disability where you would remove that disability if you could from that child.
Yeah, because life is too painful.
Too hard for them.
Yeah.
But within that, obviously, there's loads of beauty too and loads of positivity. But this is the other thing I get torn about, because it's just, every person with autism is different.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Like in this room,
even in this room.
Yeah, every single one of us and our children display completely different behaviours and have completely different lives and different challenges.
Yeah.
And different things to celebrate.
I think that is the hard thing, because you're learning to parent a completely unique being.
Yes.
I sort of equate slightly to like an alien landing on this planet who can't breathe this air, and you're trying to keep them alive.
And they can't articulate what's hard, right? Because it's like, imagine trying to ask someone to go to somewhere completely foreign and then describe to those people for whom it's not foreign what's hard about it. Because you have to sit in the other person's shoe to be able to say, oh, you feel this and I feel this and this is the gap. But they can't do that. And plus, I mean, it sounds like your kids are more articulate and potentially better at being able to describe how they feel, but Millie can't. I mean, it's either happy, sad, angry.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That's it.
And so that makes it really hard for her when you try and get to the bottom of what caused, how did we get to this meltdown, or what, you went from here to here, how did that happen? It doesn't know.
I mean, I'm getting some pretty golden nuggets coming from the 9-year-old about how he feels.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm in a prison and no one can visit me.
What about the one when he was a little one in the cot?
Oh yeah, he's saying, don't leave me here.
Yeah.
He used to speak into the monitor and just press the button and go, don't leave me here, lying here like a baby hippo all alone. Basically painting a picture of this kind of caged animal.
It's really tugging on the heartstrings there.
I've got to go and get him.
I've got to get my little hippo.
But he says things like, I just feel like I want to vomit out my feelings.
Yes.
He's like, I feel so stressed, I just want to vomit it all out.
That's
my
so
10-year-old says stuff like
expressive.
that. Like, I hate my ADHD. I hate it.
Yeah.
I want to rip it out of me.
Yeah.
And then other times it's like, oh my God, I love it because I can do a million
so
things
hard.
and I'm,
Yeah, I mean,
buzzing.
I got smacked over the head with a pillow repeatedly the other night because he couldn't sleep. And he said, if you hadn't given birth to me, I wouldn't be autistic.
Yeah, I've had that one.
And I was
get that
being
one a
beaten
lot.
over and again. And I said, we've got to stop. I know you're finding it hard to go to sleep. But he will do that. He'll go to the very point of the end point. Like, if the Big Bang hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have stubbed my toe on that table.
Yeah.
He literally...
That is so brilliant.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back. Like, often it's like, if you
the fish hadn't climbed out of the swamp.
Yeah, I would not have had a meltdown about that lack of ice cream in that shop.
Oh, it is so good though. Yeah. So I couldn't be happier to have this conversation started after so long. And I want to, give us a bit of a challenge and see if we can aim to get together quite regularly. I don't know what that's going to look like, but if we can kind of get together and tease out some of these topics, I think we're never going to run out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and we'd love to have some people write in and suggest some topics, because we know there's like a whole community of people out there going, well, can you talk about this? Can you find out about that?
Yeah,
can you tell us about that?
absolutely.
I've had my whole neighbourhood saying, quick, talk about this. I wanted to answer this. Please, can you ask Anna that?
Yeah. So it's anna@thevillagelantern.com.au. But yeah, we'd love to hear. I mean, I feel like between us and then with our sort of broader connections, the more that we can share, our stories and share other people's, we can certainly bring guests in, we can do whatever we want. But hopefully listeners are enjoying it. They might share it with a friend who they know might be going through something similar, because it feels like it's nice if we can bring community
it's
together.
time to change the world from your garage.
See?
One lanyard at a time.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you next time. I can't wait till our next
Thanks, Anne.
conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.